So as I was contemplating how to write up this meditation the other week, I was reminded about this time a long time ago that I was driving around Columbia and I was ruminating. At that time, I remember I was ruminating about how best to talk about peace. I was doing another sermon on peace way back then, and I remember I was thinking, as I was driving down Divine Street, I was thinking about how we can spread peace in the world, how we can be the peace in the world. And there were these utility workers in the right lane, sort of blocking the area off, and the lane opened up again just at the entrance to Za's Pizza. And the car in front of me turned right into the parking lot from the left lane, because that's the only way you could do it, because the right lane was closed. You had to be in the left lane and really make that turn to the right. And the driver of the car that was coming out of the lot decided at the same moment as this guy was turning right that he could cross over our lanes and turn left onto the road, and I nearly T-boned him. The words that came out of my mouth, I cannot repeat here today. I was so mad. I mean, come on. Just because the car in front of me is turning, that does not mean I am turning as well. Besides, there were cars coming in the other direction. He didn't have a clear shot to even get into the traffic anyway, yet there he was, right in front of me, looking at me like I'm the idiot. I was so angry. I yelled at him for a couple of more miles before it dawned on me what I had been thinking about just the moment before his actions so rudely interrupted me. I had been thinking about peace. I had been thinking about being peace. I had been thinking about embodying peace. And bam, I went from peace to rage. Road rage in nanoseconds. It reminded me of an old Ellen DeGeneres stand-up routine where she talks about having this realization that we're all one. Our purpose here on earth is to love one another, and how we can get over how irritating and rude everyone is. And here's her bit about driving.
So start driving, and it's so hard to drive and be compassionate and loving because the way people drive is just enough to, I'm telling you, I was behind somebody, they were going so slow, I could have gotten out of my car and walked around and going, sorry to have to pass you, but you're going a little too slow, you know. Anyway, so I went to go around them to give them that I hate you look. How else are they going to learn? Yeah. Right? Yep. It's up to us. And so I went to go around them, and it was a none. Can you believe that? Yeah, I was like, why don't you take a vow not to drive? Drop it like a bad habit, you know? And back to the love.
Oh, and so the end of it is Johnny Cash. And so in the end of it, she says, and back to the loving place. And that's the refrain she uses throughout this whole bit is, and back to the loving place. That's what I had to do after my near accidental encounter with that rude driver. Give him the I hate you look, and back to the loving place. I can imagine our ancient Hebrew brothers and sisters would have strongly resonated with Ellen's refrain to go back to the loving place. For their entire history, the Jewish people have displayed the same kind of schizophrenia we all do when we deal with the people around us. We know deep inside we're one, we're all innocent, all still held safely in the mind of God, but at the same time, we just have a little bit of trouble embodying that peace for one another. So you just have to flip through the Psalms just for a few minutes, and you will see this schizophrenia on nearly every page. Almost all of them follow the same pattern. The writer is angry with someone else, or they feel tormented by a perceived enemy, or they feel that God has left them to the devices of those who hate them. So he spends most of the psalm raging at this perceived enemy and then praises God for all the love in the world, and back to the loving place. Take Psalm 12, for example. The psalmist writes, "Help, O Lord, for there is no longer anyone who is godly. The faithful have disappeared from humankind. They utter lies to each other. With flattering lips and double heart they speak. May the Lord cut off all the flattering lips, the tongue that makes great boasts." And back to the loving place. Psalm 58. "The wicked go astray from the womb. They err from their birth, speaking lies. They have venom like the venom of a serpent, like the deaf adder that stops its ear, so that it does not hear the voice of charmers or of the cunning enchanter. O God, break the teeth in their mouths. Tear out the fangs of the young lions, O Lord." And back to the loving place. I could write one myself. "O Lord, the drivers have no fear. They steer their cars with abandon. The ungodly swerve drunkenly to and fro, with no thought of the safety of others. God, bend their bumpers, tear out their drive shafts, and curse them with high deductibles." And back to the loving place. Even though, like our Hebrew ancestors before us, we strive and we thirst for peace in our time, but all we can see around us are the people and the things that keep disturbing our peace, who make us angry, who keep those fires of rage stirred within us. In our reading today, though, we find this moment of clarity within the Psalms. "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem," it reads. "May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls and security within your towers. For the sake of my relatives and friends, I will say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your good." Finally, the psalmist gets it, arrives at the real truth. There's no peace out there. We're not going to find peace when we look out at other people or things going on in the world. When we look at the world, all we see is rage, violence, pettiness, fighting, disharmony. Peace is not out there. Peace is in here. It's within your own walls, secure in the high towers of your true divine self. So unless you can find peace in here, you're never going to find it out here. Buddhist priest Thich Nhat Hanh says, "Without being peace, we cannot do anything for peace." We often say, "Peace be with you." But perhaps the most accurate phrase is, "Peace be within you." Breathe deeply. In our Jesus story, we find our guy at the beginning of his ministry, the very beginning. He's been baptized by his cousin John the Baptist, just getting his feet wet in this whole Messiah business. And like most of us, after some big event in our lives, we want to, go for a little peace and quiet. So he wanders off into the wilderness to gather himself and find that peaceful place, back to the loving place. What he finds there, though, is something we all seem to find when we go in search of that inner peace. We find the devil, the tempter. Now, we have mythologized the devil as this pointy-tailed, horn-bedecked, red-skinned demon, but I don't think that's what appeared before Jesus. The Greek word used here, it doesn't connote that image of the devil. Instead, it just means a false accuser. Many people paint this temptation in the wilderness as Jesus just like literally walking around with some devilish being, but I think it's a lot simpler than that. Jesus spent his time in the wilderness arguing with his ego. A Course in Miracles tells us this morning that the mind can make the belief in separation very real and very fearful. And this belief that we are separate, is the devil. This is the accuser that Jesus faced. And it's the one we all face, that ego that tempts us to believe in separation, that somehow we're all more special than other people. Either special in our greatness or special in our misery. Jesus could have believed that. And in this moment, he's on the verge of a very powerful public ministry, and like any human being, he's tempted to see himself as somehow separate and better than everyone else, and use this new power that he knows he has for his own glory and enhance the separation. And the accuser reminds him of this. He reminds him of his power. He says, you know, Jesus, you can turn these stones to bread if you're hungry. You can do it. You're no ordinary human. You're divine as well. Go to divinity and beyond. That miraculous power. That isn't all Jesus could do, like turning stones to bread. He could impress great crowds of people by throwing himself off the highest pinnacle and have the angels catch him and put him safely on the ground. Think of what a show that would be. How much would you pay for that ticket? Watch Jesus jump from the top, the highest tower, and be floated down to earth. Think of the money Jesus could have made with that sort of death-defying high-wire act. People would come in droves. Take my money! And finally the accuser tells him, he takes him up to the mountain. He shows him all the kingdoms of the world, and he says, Jesus, all that can be yours. If you just use your power, you can rule the world. And how Jesus dealt with all of these temptations from the ego is really instructive for us, I think. Because at no point does Jesus fly into a rage. At no point does he swear or strike out in anger. He does not belittle his accuser. He doesn't call him names. He does not violently resist his ego. Instead, Jesus responds from that place of deep inner peace that we all have. He just quotes the scripture to his accuser. He says, no, I don't live by bread alone. I don't tempt God. The only power worth serving is the holy. He knew it. Yet that's the peace. He knew it. And then he says, away with you, Satan. And the most interesting thing of all happens. The accuser goes away. He doesn't strike back in violence. He doesn't keep harassing Jesus until he gets a rise from him. No, he leaves. And not only does he leave, the Greek word here means to give up. The devil gave up. He knew he had lost the battle. Do you know what that means? It means peace wins. And it wins every time when it comes up against the false accuser of the ego, if we're willing to be that peace. So how did Jesus defeat his divided mind? Well, he realized our belief in separation, our belief that peace is impossible, is a lie. And it's one that dissolves in the light of truth, the Course says. Your creation by God, the Course says, is the only foundation that cannot be shaken because the light is in it. Your creation by God, it's the only foundation that can't be shaken because the light is in it. Your starting point is truth. And you must return to your beginning. That beginning jubilance, it is the peace that we already have within us. This is where we are born. This is where we abide. And the Course says yourself, with a capital S, is still in peace, even though your mind is in conflict. So when Jesus faced his divided mind out in the wilderness, he went back to the beginning. He went back to the truth of who he is, who we all are. Created in light, meant to be the light of the world. And that became the heart of his message. He went on to teach all of us what it looks like to be the light of the world, to realize the realm of God is within us. Peace, jubilance, it isn't something we get or arrive at or realize. It is literally who we are. As we walk through this wicked world, we can get downhearted sometimes because all we seem to see is the evil going on around us. We see the pain and the hatred and the misery. How in the world can you say peace wins when all the evidence out here says it's just toothless? The reason it seems that peace is losing so badly right now is simply because we are not convinced. We are not convinced that peace wins. Even when we see peace out there in action, we don't believe peace wins, and if we don't believe it, why bother to work on our own divine gift of peace so we can embody it? If we can't bring peace to our own souls, how can we bring peace to anybody else? Peace, though, It's become a four-letter word in our violence and blood-soaked world. Peace lovers get a bad name. If you're for peace, you're some tree-hugging, arugula-eating, Volvo-driving, namby-pamby who shoos flies and ants out of the house instead of getting out that can of Raid. The world scorns those who love peace. They call peace lovers weak, mocked, and marginalized by laughing at those who seek peace. The world tries to tempt us away from remembering the true peace within ourselves. Instead, the world offers us a seemingly easy way out. We are rewarded for our violent and divisive ways. The most partisan among us can become leaders and enjoy honor and prestige and public office and all the power outside in the world that goes with that. And Jesus, he could have done that. He could have taken the easy way out. He could have given into that tempter. He could have become a famous emperor or a ruler. He could have gained the world's honor. But Jesus knew, no matter what the world looks like around you, even if it's total chaos, peace wins. And he chose that road of peace. He chose the harder way, one that led to his early demise. Others have chosen the path of peace. They suffer the same fate. King, Gandhi, John Lennon, right, yeah. Choosing to embody our divine character of peace. Okay, yeah, it can lead to bodily suffering, yeah. It can lead to an early bodily death, but it also leads to the best place of all, a discovery of that innate inner peace that can never be defeated by the evil of the world. The world always tries to kill peace. It will shoot it down, it will crucify it, it will bury it deep, but as Jesus' life demonstrates, King, Gandhi, Lenin, no matter how much peace suffers, no matter how many times it appears to be dead and gone, it always rises again. They may have killed Jesus 2,000 years ago, but he's still alive. We're talking about him, right? He's really still here. And we think that the hardest path is the path that puts us in bodily peril. That the body is something to protect. But the worst thing that the world can do to you is not kill your body. The worst thing that the world can do to you is make you live in hopelessness, is make you live in fear. Losing your body's nothing if you're doomed to live your whole life in fear. But peace wins. So I invite you to choose the hard path over the seemingly easy one. I invite you to disarm your own spirit. Put down the weapons of discord and violence. Live into your hearts and minds. Call a peace conference within yourself. Wander off into the desert of your own heart and mind, just like Jesus did. You'll face the tempter. You'll face that ego. It'll tell you that peace is for wimps and there's no sweet harmony waiting to be found in this world. And when that ego appears, be like Jesus. Answer calmly and confidently. Invite your tempter to encounter a miracle, to see the world differently, to see a world where peace wins. Then bring that inner peace out into the world. Begin to see the world in a new way as a place in sore need of your gift of peace. Because you know what? Every single person that you meet, everybody, is battling their own tempter. When we realize everyone is fighting a great battle, whether we consider them good, bad, or whatever, it's easier to see others through the eyes of compassion and love. There's nothing funny about peace, love, and understanding. Peace is not for sissies. It really is for the strong, because it takes all of our faith, it takes all of our strength, all of our compassion to bring it about, not just in our own hearts, but in the world around us. Stephen Pressfield writes in his book, The War of Art, if tomorrow morning by some stroke of magic, every dazed and benighted soul woke up with the power to take the first step toward pursuing his or her dreams, every shrink in the directory would be out of business. Prisons would stand empty. The alcohol and tobacco industries would collapse, along with the junk food, cosmetic surgery, and infotainment businesses, not to mention pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and the medical profession from top to bottom. Domestic abuse would become extinct, as would addiction, obesity, migraine headaches, road rage, and dandruff. That will be because we have overcome the false accuser, the tempter, the devil, or what Pressfield calls resistance, that force that tempts us. It will give up if we answer it in our peace, and instead remember who we truly are and refuse to trade our innate grandeur for the ego's grandiosity. So be like Jesus, jubilants. Don't fall for the lies. Answer those temptations of the ego with the only power that you have, the peace that resides within you. Because jubilants, this is the truth. Peace wins. Oh yeah.